2 in the morning. The summer storm was raging outside the Vance estate. Rain lashed against the tin roof of the stable, creating sounds as harsh as machine gun fire. Wind whistled through the cracks of the old oak walls. I lay curled up on a pile of dry hay in the corner of stall number 7. The smell of dry grass, leather, and the familiar scent of horse sweat surrounded me. This was my home. Truly my home.
More than the cold villa 500 meters away, where my wife was sleeping on a warm mattress. Beside me, Midnight Storm was sleeping standing up. His breath was steady, puffing out faint white smoke in the cold air of the rainy night. He was a purebred thoroughbred, his entire body black as ink. Only a small lightning bolt-shaped white mark on his left fetlock. He was my life, the only reason I was still holding on in this living hell. Click. The sound of the iron latch clashing was dry. It wasn't the wind. I snapped my eyes open. The instinct of a jockey who had fought for years kept me awake immediately. I didn't sit up. I held my breath, shrinking deeper into the shadows of the hay pile. A flashlight beam swept across the aisle between the 2 rows of stalls. 2 shadows stretched long on the sawdust-covered floor. They walked stealthily, but the sound of expensive leather shoes crunching still betrayed their presence. "Hurry up, Doctor!" That voice, I recognized it immediately. Caleb, my brother-in-law, the nominal heir to the Vance farm, but actually a heavy gambling addict. "Hold the light steady," another voice rang out. The family's private vet, old Dr. Finch. They stopped right in front of stall number 7. My heart pounded in my chest, so hard I feared they would hear it. Caleb unlocked the stall. Midnight Storm startled awake. He snorted, stomping his foot on the ground, showing unease. He smelled danger. "Shh, be good," Caleb whispered, his tone nauseatingly fake. "I have a gift for you." He held the reins tight, pulling the horse's head down. Under the dim flashlight, I saw Dr. Finch pull a large syringe from his bag. Inside was a cloudy yellow liquid. Not a supplement. I knew the color of supplements. This looked like a high-dose sedative, or worse, a muscle-paralyzing toxin. "Is this dose strong enough?" Caleb asked, voice full of worry. "He has to look like he's dying by tomorrow morning." Finch smirked, tapping the syringe to expel air bubbles. "Don't worry, young master. Just inject this into the jugular vein. Within 6 hours, he will have a high fever, convulsions, and foam at the mouth. It will look exactly like symptoms of Western equine encephalitis. No one will suspect a thing, not even that brat Woody." Caleb nodded smugly. "Good. Tomorrow morning I will call old Grimsby. He agreed to buy this sick horse for the price of scrap meat. Then he will take it to his farm, inject the antidote, and boom! Next month he will win the Grand Derby under Grimsby's team colors. And I will pocket $500,000 in kickbacks. Enough to pay off the mob debt." I bit my lip until it bled. Anger flared up like a fire burning my insides. They didn't
money-making tool for the enemy.
And they were doing it right in front of me, while I lay here like a rat in a dark corner. I wanted to rush out. I wanted to smash Caleb's face. But I froze. If I rushed out now, what could I do? I was a cripple, a leech. There were 2 of them, healthy. And more importantly, they were the legal owners of this farm. They could kick me out immediately and inject the horse at any other time. I had to endure. I had to swallow the hatred. Thud. The sound of the needle piercing Midnight Storm's neck skin. The horse let out a painful whinny, tearing through the silent night. He reared up, kicking back at the stall wall. "Hold him tight!" Finch shouted. Caleb gripped the reins, his face red. "Done!" He pulled the needle out. Midnight Storm swayed. The drug worked extremely fast. His fiery eyes began to look glazed. 4 legs trembled. He collapsed onto the hay pile, breathing out heavy breaths. "Let's go," Caleb said, dusting off his sleeves. "Let the drug soak in. Tomorrow morning, the show begins." They locked the stall door and left, leaving behind giggles mixed with the sound of rain. When their footsteps had faded completely, I dared to crawl out of my hiding place. I dragged myself to Midnight Storm, hugged his large head into my lap. He looked at me. Big round eyes brimming with tears, full of pleading and confusion. He didn't understand why humans did this to him. "I'm sorry, Midnight Storm," I whispered, hot tears falling onto his smooth mane. "I'm sorry for not protecting you." I felt his heartbeat become irregular. His muscles began to twitch slightly. But I knew the only antidote right now was not in the medicine cabinet. It lay in a crazy plan I had just come up with. A plan that required the recklessness of someone with nothing left to lose. "You won't die," I said, stroking the lightning bolt mark on his leg. "And you won't run for old Grimsby either. You are my horse, and we will show them what a real storm is." The next morning, it was still drizzling, the sky gray as lead. I walked into the Vance dining room in clothes covered in mud and horse smell. Elena, my wife, was sitting at the head of the long table. She was sipping Earl Grey tea from thin bone china. Wearing a cream silk dress, she looked like a haughty swan in this moral swamp. Seeing me enter, she wrinkled her nose, setting the teacup down roughly. "God, Woody, don't you know how to shower before coming into the house? You're stinking up my breakfast." I didn't answer. I pulled a chair and sat opposite her, as far away as possible. I took a piece of toast, my hand still trembling slightly from last night's anger. "Where is Caleb?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "My brother is sleeping," Elena replied, eyes not leaving her phone screen. "Last night he worked late on the farm's books. Unlike someone who only knows how to sleep with animals." I smiled faintly. "Worked late? Yes, the work of injecting poison into the family's most valuable asset." Elena was the youngest daughter of the Vance clan. Beautiful, sharp, but her heart was cold as stone. 3 years ago, when I was still Woody the Lightning, the most talented young jockey on the East Coast, she used to look at me with admiration. She liked my fame, liked the feeling of being chased by the press when arm in arm with the champion. But then the accident happened. A fall at the death curve crushed my right femur. Career over. I became a cripple, and Elena's love evaporated as quickly as morning dew. She didn't divorce me because of family pride, but she turned me into a broken decoration in the house, an unpaid stable manager. "Hey, Woody," Elena said, her cold voice cutting through my thoughts. "The lawyer is coming today. You need to sign the power of attorney to sell Midnight Storm." I stopped chewing, looked up at her. "Why?" "He is very healthy. He is the #1 contender for the Grand Derby next month." Elena sighed, looking disgusted. "Stop it, Woody. Stop hallucinating. That horse is wild. No one can control him but you. And you," she glanced at my limping leg, "you are a cripple. We need cash." "Caleb says someone wants to buy him for a good price. Sell him before he causes trouble." I remembered the first day I met Midnight Storm, 2 years ago. He was locked in an isolated stall, chained, frantically kicking anyone who came near. Caleb had held a gun intending to shoot him because he had kicked a staff member's ribs broken. "He is a monster!" Caleb had screamed. But I saw something else in his eyes. Not aggression, but fear. He had been abused by humans, beaten to be forced into submission. I had stood in front of Caleb's gun. "Give me 1 month," I had said. "If I can't tame him, you can shoot." I moved in to live in the stable with him. I talked to him. I fed him by hand. I let him smell my scent, get used to my heartbeat. And one night, when a storm hit, thunder crashing, he panicked. I went to his side, wrapped my arms around his neck, and he rested his head on my shoulder. At that moment, I knew we were one. 2 damaged souls found each other in the storm. I named him Midnight Storm. Under my secret training at night, he revealed the qualities of a king. Godspeed sprint, terrible endurance. He was born to run. But the Vance family didn't see that. They only saw numbers. And now they wanted to sell him to Grimsby, the slaughterhouse owner and notorious gambling boss. My sworn enemy. The person who indirectly caused my accident years ago. "I won't sign," I said firmly. Elena slammed her hand on the table. "You dare defy me? You are living off my family. You eat my family's food. Don't forget, on paper, that horse belongs to Vance Farm. You are just a hired hand." Just then, the landline rang. The maid picked up, then ran in panic. "Miss, Master Caleb is calling from the stable. He says Midnight Storm is dying." Elena smirked, a smile of victory. She looked at me. "See? Even God is on my side. He is dying. Now you have a reason to sign, right? Selling him to the slaughterhouse will salvage a few bucks." I stood up, trying to hide the trembling of my hands. I had to act. I had to play the role of a man in utter misery. "No," I gasped, my voice breaking. "Midnight Storm." I rushed out of the dining room, running, limping towards the stable in the rain. In my head, the plan had begun to run. Tonight, this very night, I would make the biggest bet of my life. I wouldn't let them win. I would switch destiny. I ran towards the stable, rain mixing with tears on my face.
But as soon as I was hidden behind the oak door, I wiped my face dry. No more tears, only coldness and calculation. Caleb and Dr. Finch had left long ago. Midnight Storm was lying flat on the hay, breathing weakly. The poison was seeping into his every muscle fiber. I knelt down, checked his heart rate, still beating, though slow. "Hang in there, old friend," I whispered. "Just a few more hours."
I pulled an old phone from the bottom of the tool chest. The phone I hid for emergencies. I dialed. "Mom, it's time. Bring the old truck to the back gate right now." On the other end, my mother's voice rang out firmly. "I'm starting the engine. I'm bringing the goods you asked for." I hung up, checked the watch. 3 a.m. The storm was at its peak. Lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the whole farm in an instant. This was the perfect cover. I went to the main electrical panel of the stable area. Click. I cut the breaker. The entire security camera system went dead. Darkness completely enveloped. Only the flickering light of lightning bolts remained. I put on a raincoat, opened the back door of the stable. My mother's dilapidated livestock truck had backed up right to the door edge. The engine noise was completely drowned out by the thunder. My mother jumped down. She was 60, but her hands were still as firm as pliers of a woman who had worked hard all her life. "Hurry up, Woody," she said, voice urgent. "Storms wait for no one." We lowered the truck ramp. Inside the dark truck bed, a large black shadow stood. That was Shadow. A 20-year-old horse my mother had bought from the slaughterhouse yesterday for $200. He also had a jet black coat, but he was skinny, old, and suffering from severe pneumonia. He should have been released from pain long ago. Today, he would help Midnight Storm live. I led Shadow down. He walked with difficulty, coughing. "Sorry, Shadow." I stroked his dry nose. "You will die for a champion. It is a glorious death." I led Shadow into stall number 7. Laid him down on the hay right next to Midnight Storm. Now was the hardest part. Midnight Storm had a white lightning bolt mark on his left fetlock. Shadow was jet black from head to toe. I took out a bottle of specialized horsehair dye and some bleach powder. Under the dim light of the flashlight clipped in my mouth, I started makeup. I shaved a small patch of hair on Shadow's leg. Applied bleach to his skin to create a fake lightning bolt. He stood still, enduring it, too weak to resist. Next, Midnight Storm. I had to get this 500-kilogram horse who was poisoned onto the truck. "Get up, boy," I patted his cheek. "Get up!" Midnight Storm opened his eyes. He groaned. I put my shoulder under his flank, using all my strength to lift him. My mother also rushed in to help, pushing the horse's rump. 1, 2, 3, up! Midnight staggered up. The poison made his legs jelly, but he trusted me. He leaned his entire body weight on me. We supported him step by step, one step at a time, to the truck. Rain whipped our faces, stinging cold. Mud up to our ankles. Every step was a battle. Finally, we got him into the truck bed. My mother immediately injected him with an antidote and heart stimulant shot I had prepared. "Are you coming with him?" Mom asked. I shook my head. I looked at Midnight Storm one last time, kissed his forehead. No, Mom. I have to stay to finish this play. Take him to Rose Garden Farm. Hide him in the hay cellar. Don't let anyone see. Mom nodded, closed the ramp. The truck rolled away, disappearing into the pitch-black rain curtain. I went back to the stable, locked the back door, turned the breaker on. Everything returned to normal. Only that lying in stall number 7 now was Shadow, the scapegoat horse. I sat down beside him, waiting for dawn, and waiting for the vultures to appear. 7 a.m. Caleb and Elena walked into the stable. They held their noses because of the damp smell after the rain. Following them were Dr. Finch and a fat man with a scarred face, Grimsby. "Where is he?" Caleb asked, voice excited. I sat glumly in the corner of the stall, head bowed. I pointed to the hay pile. Shadow was lying there, gasping, white foam coming out of his mouth. He was truly dying of old age and lung disease, plus the panic of last night. He looked as miserable as exactly what Dr. Finch described about the poison's effect. Dr. Finch stepped forward, pretending to examine. He lifted the horse's eyelid. Tsk, tsk, too bad. Acute equine encephalitis. He won't make it through tonight. If left long, he will infect the whole herd. Elena stepped back, face full of disgust. Gross! Get rid of him immediately. Old Grimsby stepped forward. He looked at the horse with the scrutinizing eyes of a seasoned trader. My heart tightened. Would he realize? Shadow was slightly thinner than Midnight Storm. But Grimsby had never looked closely at Midnight Storm at close range. He only saw him through binoculars on the track. He looked down at the horse's left leg. The white lightning mark, fake, showed clearly. He nodded, smirking, revealing yellow teeth. What a pity. A promising racehorse like this has to go to the slaughterhouse. All right, then. Out of respect for Mr. Caleb here, I will clean up this trash for you folks. $500. Scrap price. And I take him right now. Caleb nudged me. Sign it, Woody. What are you waiting for? Don't let him die here. It's bad luck. He handed me the transfer paper. I took the paper. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the excitement rising. I skimmed the content. Selling a sick horse, black color, unknown origin, to Grimsby Slaughterhouse. No name. Midnight Storm. No identification chip number, because Shadow wasn't chipped. Caleb and Elena were too eager to get rid of him, so they didn't check the legal text carefully. They just wanted money. I held the pen, signed a scrawled signature. My tears fell on the paper. This time, it was real tears. Pity for Shadow, and pity for myself of yesterday. Take it. Grimsby threw 5 $100 bills on the ground, right in front of me. Like giving alms to a dog. Lead him to the truck for me. I stood up, picked up the money. I stroked Shadow one last time. Thank you, I whispered in his ear. You will be free. Grimsby's staff dragged Shadow away roughly. The old horse didn't resist. He knew his fate. I watched Grimsby's truck roll out the gate. Caleb and Elena high-fived, laughing loudly. Wonderful! Caleb cheered. $500,000 waiting for us. Hey, Woody, you get credit too. Take this $500 and buy booze to drown your sorrows, he mocked, patting my shoulder. I swatted his hand away. so hard he stumbled back. "What?" he stared. "You dare!" I looked straight into his eyes, then looked at Alina. My eyes were no longer the eyes of a weak husband. They were cold and sharp as a scalpel. "I don't need your money." I threw the $500 in Elena's face.
The bills flew like falling leaves. And I don't need this family anymore either. I'm leaving. Elena laughed scornfully. Leaving? Where can you go? You are a cripple. Step out of this gate, you will starve. I turned my back, picked up the small duffel bag I had prepared in the corner of the stall. Inside were just a few old clothes and my worn jockey suit. Just wait and see, Elena. Just wait and see who will starve.
I walked limping out of the Vance farm. The rain had stopped. The sun began to peek behind dark clouds. I didn't look back. I walked straight to the main road, caught a bus north, towards my mother's rose garden farm, where a real storm was waiting to be unleashed. 1 week later, at Grimsby's secret farm, old Grimsby was standing in the quarantine stable, his face purple with rage. At his feet was Shadow's carcass.
The horse died last night from respiratory failure. He had injected all kinds of antidotes, the most expensive heart supplements, but useless because he wasn't poisoned by Dr. Finch. He died of old age. That bastard Caleb, Grimsby roared, kicking the water bucket. He tricked me. He sold me a dead horse. The assistant standing next to him trembled, asking, "Boss, should we call to ask for the money back?" "Call my ass."
Grimsby slapped the assistant. "Are you stupid? If I make a fuss, the whole world will know I bought a sick horse to cheat in racing. The racing commission will revoke my license. I already transferred the $200,000 deposit to them." He paced back and forth, sweating profusely. The Grand Derby was only 3 weeks away. He had registered the name Midnight Storm on the competition list under the alias Thunderbolt. Bookmakers had taken bets. If he withdrew now, he would lose credibility and lose a ton of betting money. "What do we do, boss?" Grimsby gritted his teeth, eyes bloodshot. "I can't withdraw. Put Red Fury in as a substitute." "But Red Fury is very slow. How can he win?" "Screw him. Just let him run. I will find another way to win. As for the Vances," he clenched his fist, "I will settle with them later." He didn't know that. Not far away, in a secluded green meadow behind the mountains, the real Midnight Storm was galloping at Godspeed. On his back was me, Woody. I had put the jockey suit back on. My leg ached terribly every time I spurred the horse, but I didn't care. Wind whistled in my ears. "Faster, Midnight Storm!" I shouted. "Let them eat dust!" The horse neighed, rushing forward like a black arrow tearing the wind. We were ready. Grand Derby, just you wait. 1 month later, Churchill Downs racetrack was bright with flags and flowers welcoming the Grand Derby. This was the most prestigious event of the year in the horse racing world, where ladies wore wide-brimmed hats as big as umbrellas, where gentlemen smoked Cuban cigars and bet millions of dollars on four-legged beasts. The Vance family sat in the most luxurious VIP box. Elena wore a bright red dress, holding a glass of champagne, laughing with high society friends. Caleb sat next to her, feet on the table, looking triumphant. Today is the day our lives change, sister, Caleb said, taking a drag of his cigar. I put all the money from selling the farm on old Grimsby's Thunderbolt. That is our midnight storm. Grimsby said he has fully recovered. The odds are 10 to 1.
Just him coming in first, we will have $5 million. Enough to buy this whole town. Elena giggled. Poor Woody. Probably begging in some corner by now. He never knows his beloved horse is running to make money for us. But they didn't know one thing. In the stable area of Grimsby's team, the atmosphere was tense as a string. Old Grimsby paced back and forth, sweat soaking his tight silk shirt.
The horse he registered as Thunderbolt, actually the substitute, Red Fury, was standing trembling in the stall. He was a B-grade horse, no chance of winning this tournament. But Grimsby had no way out. He didn't dare tell Caleb the truth, that the horse he bought had died. He had to risk everything betting on luck. PA announcer, jockeys please wing horses to the starting position. The stands livened up. 12 mighty horses stepped onto the dirt track. Caleb picked up binoculars, scrutinizing for Thunderbolt. There, number 7, he cheered. Look how strong he is. Actually, that was Red Fury. Caleb wasn't horse-savvy, so didn't notice the slight difference in physique. Suddenly, the PA announcer broadcast a surprise announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a last-minute change. A wild-card candidate just completed medical registration this morning. Please welcome horse number 13. Registered name, Vengeance. Owned by Rose Garden Farm. And the rider, the commentator's voice suddenly pitched high with excitement, is the return of a legend absent for the past 3 years. Woody the Lightning Miller! The whole stand gasped in amazement. Caleb dropped his cigar on his lap. What? Woody? That cripple? Elena jumped up, spilling wine on her dress. Impossible! Where did he get a horse? From the dark tunnel, a jet-black horse stepped out, muscles rippling under fur smooth as velvet. He walked proudly, head held high, and on his back was me. I wore a black jockey suit embroidered with a bright red rose on the back, my mother's symbol. I was no longer limping. On horseback, I was a king. The pain in my leg was still there, but adrenaline had numbed it. I patted Midnight Storm's neck. He let out a resounding neigh. The familiar neigh made Caleb freeze. He pointed binoculars at horse number 13. He saw the white lightning bolt mark on the left fetlock. No! His face drained of blood. That is Midnight Storm! But I sold him to Grimsby. He turned to look towards Grimsby's area. Saw old Grimsby also jaw-dropped, face pale as a corpse. Into position! The referee's voice rang out. I nudged Midnight Storm's flank. He stepped into starting gate number 13. Next to me was number 7, Grimsby's substitute horse. I glanced at Grimsby's jockey. He looked at me with fear. Midnight Storm snorted, blowing hot air into the opponent's face. He knew who was king here. Bang! The starting gun fired. The gates flew open. Horses rushed out like arrows. Dust filled the air. The sound of hooves thundering like thunder shook the ground. Right from the first meters, Grimsby's number 7 horse fell behind. He wasn't in the same class. Caleb screamed in despair, "Run! Number 7, run!" But useless. His money was evaporating with every slow step of the old horse. As for me and Midnight Storm, we were like a black arrow tearing the wind. I pressed close to the horse's back, feeling every muscle rhythm. We passed number 5, past number 3, past number 9, to the final death curve, where I broke my leg 3 years ago. The trauma rushed back in an instant, but Midnight Storm seemed to sense my fear. He didn't slow down. He accelerated. He leaned at an impossible angle, hugging the curve sweetly. I closed my eyes for a second, entrusting my life to him. When I opened my eyes, in front was only the straight road to the finish line, and no one ahead. "Vengeance is leading!" the commentator screamed hoarsely. "Terrifying speed! Woody the Lightning has returned!" I heard the wind whistling, heart beating, and the roar of 100,000 spectators. I loosened the reins, letting Midnight Storm unleash all his might freely. He rushed across the finish line,
leaving the runner-up 10 horse lengths behind. Absolute victory! Track record broken! I raised my hand to the sky. Tears welled up, not for the $2 million prize money, but for freedom. In the VIP box, Elena collapsed onto the chair. Caleb smashed the binoculars. "Bastard! He tricked me! That is my horse! I must get him back!" He rushed down the stairs like a mad animal, dragging the crying Elena along.
The winner's circle was packed with reporters. They surrounded me and Midnight Storm. My mother, Rose, ran to hug me. She sobbed, putting a bright red rose garland around Midnight Storm's neck. Just then, the crowd was shoved aside. Caleb and Elena rushed in, followed by 2 policemen and old Grimsby. This guy followed to watch the drama and try to salvage something. "Arrest him!" Caleb screamed, pointing at my face. "Arrest the horse thief!" Reporters swung cameras towards the brawl. The policeman stepped forward, putting a hand on the horse's rein. "Mr. Woody Miller? Someone accused you of stealing high-value property. This horse is claimed to belong to Vance Farm." I calmly dismounted. I patted Midnight Storm so he wouldn't panic. I looked at Caleb, who was purple in the face. "Stealing?" I asked back. "Do you have proof?" Caleb pulled out a crumpled paper. "Here, the horse's birth certificate. Name Midnight Storm. Identifying features, black, white lightning mark on left leg. Owner, Vance family. You swapped him the night you left." Elena also screamed, "Give back the horse to me, and give back the prize money too! You are scammers!" The audience started whispering. I smiled. I turned to my mother.
Rose calmly opened her old handbag, pulled out a plastic-wrapped file. She handed it to the policeman. "Please look at this." The policeman took it, read aloud. "Certificate of Transfer of Horse Ownership. Horse name, Midnight Storm. Previous owner, Vance Farm. New owner, Mrs. Rose Miller. Transfer date, 6 months ago. Confirmed signature of Vance Farm representative, Mr. Caleb Vance." Caleb dropped his jaw.
He snatched the paper. "What? When did I sign this?" I stepped closer to him, spoke loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Remember, Caleb, 6 months ago, when you lost football bets and owed the mob $50,000, you secretly sold Midnight Storm short to an anonymous buyer to get cash to pay debts urgently. That buyer was my mother."
"You signed to sell him off, but asked to keep him for a few months to show off to your parents. You thought you could trick that buyer later, but you didn't expect that person was my mother, and she did the legal transfer procedure the very next day." Caleb trembled. He remembered. He had sold this horse twice, Once to my mother, legal, and once fake to Grimsby, illegal because the horse wasn't his anymore. As for the horse sale paper you forced me to sign the other day, I continued, it only said selling a sick horse. And the reality is, I delivered to you a real sick horse. Shadow. Transaction completed. You have no rights to this midnight storm. Caleb froze. His face turned from red to green. Old Grimsby, standing by silently all this time, suddenly stepped up. He realized the only chance to get his money back. Aha! Grimsby clapped. So Caleb here tricked me. You sold me a dying horse for $200,000 deposit and lied it was this champion. That is property fraud. Grimsby turned to the police. I want to sue Caleb Vance for fraud. He sold me fake goods, and I demand his assets be frozen for compensation. Caleb stepped back, panicked to the extreme. No, not true. Grimsby, you knew the plan. What plan? Grimsby denied flatly. I am just a victim buying the wrong sick horse. Elena screamed. Mr. Grimsby, why are you flipping? But the police had pulled out handcuffs. Caleb Vance, please come to the station. We need to clarify the act of selling one asset to multiple people and fraud. Click. The cold handcuff sound rang out. Caleb was dragged away in front of hundreds of reporters' cameras.
The political career, if any, and honor of the Vance family collapsed completely. Elena stood alone in the crowd. She looked at me. Her eyes were no longer arrogant. Only fear and craving remained. Woody, she whispered, I didn't know about Caleb selling the horse before. We are still husband and wife, right? That $2 million prize is joint property. I looked at the woman I once loved madly.
Now she looked so cheap. No, Elena. I filed for divorce this morning. With evidence of your adultery my detective collected last month, you will leave empty-handed. Goodbye. I turned my back, climbed onto Midnight Storm. My mother sat in the driver's seat of the brand-new pickup truck, which I just bought with advance money. I nudged the horse's flank gently. Midnight Storm neighed, parting the crowd to walk. We left the noisy racetrack, leaving behind greedy people tearing each other apart for dirty money. The sun was setting, dyeing the sky red. I patted Midnight Storm. Let's go home, boy. Real home. A new, free life was waiting for us ahead.